One time, I went to the bar with one of my friends. I had just turned 21, so I hadn't been to many bars up to that point. My friend was drinking on the way to the bar, so he was already pretty drunk when we got there. When I sat at the bar, a cute girl came and talked to me and my friend. She said that her name was Candace, and I noticed she had really bright red hair. I assumed she had dyed it. It was pretty but unnatural. Anyways, this girl was flirting with me and my friend. She could tell my friend was already very drunk. To be honest, I played along like I was drunk already too, since it seemed to be working for my friend. I didn't know if she was just trying to get free drinks, so I told her that we didn't have much money. But she offered to buy us drinks. She kept buying us drinks, and I started to get confused as to who she liked between me and my friend. My friend went to the bathroom. Before he came back, he was kicked out by the bouncers because he was too drunk. Candace and I went outside with him. She kept telling him to go home with her. He was so out of it that he could barely answer her. I told her that he was too drunk and that I couldn't let him go anywhere. I didn't want him to wake up hungover in some random house with no car and no idea what had happened. But Candace kept pushing it, saying that she would take care of him, but I told her no because I had to stay with him. I was more sober than him and he was my responsibility. I told her the only way that he was going anywhere was if I tagged along. I assumed she thought I was just being jealous, but my friend could barely stand and had lost interest in Candace already at that point. So, she immediately started to flirt with me, and offered to get my friend a taxi to drive him home, and said that we could go to her place alone. At this point, I had a few drinks and I was pretty buzzed, so I agreed. We took my friend to a taxi and walked to her car. I slightly stumbled on the way to her car. "Wow, you're pretty drunk, huh?" she said, smiling as she held onto my arm. "Yeah," I said. I don't know why, but I just felt slightly shy and anxious. Everything was just happening too easy for me, so I felt uneasy. We got in her car and we drove down the street. "Want to stop at the liquor store and get something more to drink? I'll buy it so you don't have to worry about paying," she offered. I didn't want to drink any more than I already did. I was already buzzed and wanted to be able to carry myself throughout the rest of the night. Sometimes I made myself look stupid when I'm drunk, so I didn't want to ruin anything with Candace more than I already had, when I told her that my friend was already too drunk. I told her that I was already drunk enough, but she insisted. I didn't want to seem lame, so I told her to give me a pint of liquor with some apple juice to chase it. She went in the store and came out with a lot more than just a pint. I assumed that she had wanted to drink more also, so that's why she got a fifth instead of a pint. But on the car ride, we passed the bottle back and forth, but she only took tiny sips. I tried to take tiny sips, but she kept passing me the bottle and telling me to drink. I somehow had managed to drink all of my apple juice and to pretend to drink the bottle by spitting the liquor in the apple juice bottle. I tossed the apple juice bottle full of liquor out the window before she had seen it. I didn't want her to know I was acting drunker than I was, so she actually believed I was sloppy drunk when I was simply buzzed. I took a couple more sips of liquor and finished the bottle. Throughout the car ride, I called her the wrong name a couple of times to get a reaction out of her. She didn't react to it. She just kept letting me call her Carla without correcting me. For some reason, I thought she lied to me about her name initially. We drove up to her house. I pretended to trip and stumble into her front door. She helped me walk inside by holding me up. She opened her front door, which was unlocked. We walked in her house and she closed her front door and then locked it. I thought that was strange, but assumed she didn't want anyone walking in on us. I told her that I'd use the bathroom. I walked into her bathroom, locked the door, and looked in the mirror. I just felt strange. I felt like something was off. I felt myself becoming more drunk from finishing the bottle earlier. I turned on the sink to make noise and made myself puke up the liquor that I drank. I flushed it and went to the sink and started drinking the tap water out of my hands to sober up. I just didn't want to be drunk, but I still wanted to hook up with Candace, so I wanted to pretend to be drunk. I turned the sink off and I could hear her talking to someone. "He's drunk as hell. He can barely stand up. You do it." Who was she talking to and to do what? I walked out of the bathroom and into the living room. The moment that I stepped into the living room, I saw her walking into another room. All I could see was the back of her head. That strange, very bright red hair going to another room. I didn't see her face or anything. I just saw her kind of walk fast into the room. The living room was pretty dark. "Hey, where are you going?" I slurred like I was drunk. She walked back into the dark living room and up to me. "Let's go in my room," she said. I looked at her bright red hair and then into her eyes. They were different. Her face was different. It was another girl with the same hair. And that's when I realized it. It was another girl with the same wig on. It was the wig the whole time. She had changed it with the girl from earlier for whatever reason. My heart felt like it had stopped. But I tried to look like I had no idea it was a different girl. I kind of smiled at her and told her I just needed to use the bathroom one more time and told her sorry I was so drunk. She said, "It's fine, just hurry up in here." I went into the bathroom and locked the door. I heard her whisper something to someone again. This time I think I heard a male voice whisper back. I honestly didn't concentrate on listening to exactly what she had said. Something sketchy was going on and I had to get out of that house. I opened the bathroom window and jumped straight out of it, and ran faster than I have ever ran in my life. I didn't look behind myself or anything. I just ran through the backyard, jumped the fence and ran through someone else's backyard, hit a road and then ran down towards the main road. I kept running down the main road until I saw a CVS and I ran into it, and stood straight at the front of the store in front of the camera. I called a taxi and then I went home. I tried to think back on what happened that night. What was she or they planning that night? Why did she tell me a fake name? Why was she trying to get my friend and I so drunk? I thought maybe a robbery, but she kept spending money on us. She kept buying us drinks and even paid for my friend's taxi cab. And mostly, why did she wear a wig that she gave to another girl to wear? Who was she talking to? What did it mean? And what was in that room that they tried to lure me into? The next day after this incident, I went back to the house with a couple of friends to see just what was going on. Nobody was there. No cars, no people, nothing. Just an empty house. I ended up finding out that that house was a summer rental, and whoever those people were, they had broken into that house and used it for only that night, and they never came back. As a kid, I lived in a pretty typical suburban neighborhood in a ranch-style house. My bedroom was at the front corner of the house, with a window that faced the street and a window that faced the house next door. I was 11 or 12 at the time, and I shared the room with my younger sister. We had bunk beds, and I liked to sleep on the bottom bunk. From the position of my bed, I could see through the window that looked out at the street. I woke up one night to a thud at my front window. I was immediately on edge. I was always a paranoid kid. Knowing full well that I wouldn't sleep, I laid there petrified. It seemed like hours, but what was likely a few minutes later, a man's face appeared through the crack in my curtain. I could see it so clearly in my mind, even to this day. I saw the shadow of his hands through my thin curtain cupped around his face, and what I'm assuming was his attempt to see in the window better, and his eyes, nose, and mouth were completely clear through the crack. I cried there for a few minutes, unable to move, while he shifted a few times trying to see more clearly into my bedroom. I got the courage to slip out of my bed as quickly and quietly as I could, and I ran into my parents' room to wake up my dad. At first, my father tried to attribute the noise to the large lilac bush at the corner of the house, of which the branches would occasionally tap on my window when it was breezy and the bush was overgrown. I cried and told him about the man. When he had woke up all the way and realized what I was saying, he leapt from bed and ran outside. The man was nowhere to be seen. My dad told me that it must have been a nightmare, that the window would be too tall for anyone to look in anyway, and he ushered me back to my room. I didn't sleep. The next morning, we realized a planter pot had been pulled over from the front porch to underneath my front window to be stood on. A piece of the concrete window frame was broken off, and we could clearly see the place where someone's forehead and nose had been in contact with the window. Luckily, nothing else ever came of this. I'm 5'3", 115 pounds, so I guess I'm pretty small. That's my reasoning for being very submissive over all of this. This is a lengthy story, so I'm just going to skim, and I'm not the best at telling the story, so prepare yourself. When I started working at this fast food chain, I was 16. It was my first job, and I was excited to finally take my first steps into adulthood. This coworker of mine was training me. For privacy purposes, I'll call him Frank. Frank at first glance looks young, 19, 21 at the most. We got along and nothing was too bad nor alarming, like conversations about anime and such. I remember things started to change slightly when he was talking about a video game character, and none of our coworkers knew who it was. When I saw the green hat character, I said, "Oh, that's Link. How cute. I used to watch my brother play Legend of Zelda: Four Swords." He looked at me and said, "Marry me." I laughed it off and continued on with my day. For the rest of my shift, he would hover over me asking me personal questions like my age, my favorite things, and etc. Being the open, friendly person I was, I answered happily. I told him how I loved butterflies and that I was 16. I'm 17 now and have had several jobs since then. When an older man asks you for your age as a minor, it's never a nice sign. Moving on to December, I've been at this chain for a month now. My manager asked me if I wanted to come to their company Secret Santa party, and I agreed. When the day came, I arrived with my now ex-best friend. Frank arrives on the phone, acting busy and such, but I thought nothing of it. During the whole party, he was on the phone. I was getting food when he tapped my shoulder, still on the phone, and handed me a beautifully butterfly necklace. I didn't know what to say, besides thanking him, thinking he was my Secret Santa. And then later, my other coworker comes up to me, handing me a gift card to Starbucks and a plush. I asked why, and she said that she was my Secret Santa. I thought that it must have been a mistake and went on with my night listening to my old best friend tell me how I should date Frank, which in my mind was never on the table. January rolls around and it was Frank's birthday. We were just working until I heard one of my girl coworkers, who was into him at the time, wish him a happy birthday. Being that person, I wish him happy birthday while my other coworker asked how old he's turning. He said 27. Might I add that every shift I worked with him, he would take several photos of me before and after my shift, commenting about my hair, my skin, and my eyes. He often said how cute my nose was. Again, not wanting to cause a scene, I just laugh everything off. That's always the case, isn't it? We don't want to cause a scene. I did start telling him to please stop, but of course, he wouldn't, no matter how many times I asked him to. Now, I'm going to skip to May, my birthday month, and of course, I was working on my birthday. I went to the back door as usual. Due to everything going on, I had to ring a doorbell and wait for someone to open the door. Out of nowhere, Frank pops out of the bushes handing me all kinds of gifts. Today was his day off too, so I was confused. I remember thinking, how the hell did he know my birthday? I never talked to him about it since I don't like celebrating it. He followed me around for a few minutes before awkwardly leaving when I apologized that I wanted to get to work and not get yelled at. In July was when I finally found a new job. I quit due to sexual harassment that I had to endure for the 9 months I worked there from my shift lead. That's a whole other story, but when a man starts getting handsy, don't laugh it off and shut that down. It got really bad when that ex-best friend that I had mentioned earlier started showing all my coworkers, including Frank, and that shift lead, explicit photos of me that she stole off my phone without me knowing. I was very insecure at the time and was in an abusive relationship, so I would give anything this boy had asked of me. Anyways, at that point, I had about had it. After being interrogated about that shift lead, I put in my 2 weeks. On my last week, everyone was talking about how that shift lead got laid off for sexual harassment. Frank and I were doing dishes and the topic came up. I awkwardly told him about it, now knowing how everyone knew my story. The shift lead would often grab my butt, rub my thigh, talk about my boobs about, only if they were bigger, things he would do to my body, etc. I would say stop politely, but he would continue. When I started yelling and saying stop more assertively, he would often make me do humiliating tasks like cleaning the greasy floors with my hands and knees, or cleaning the dining room when it was closed due to the virus. And when I told Frank this, he shrugged it off and said that there was no reason for him to be fired. I remember being absolutely shocked, retorting, "I'm just glad that I'm leaving this hellhole," and I left it at that. A month into my new job as a hostess, everything was going well. It's a restaurant, but everyone just comes there to drink, so it's more of a bar. On one of my 2 a.m. shifts, Frank stops by on his bike. I tried to be friendly, but I was getting frustrated when he kept cutting me off from talking to other people. I then walked away to bus tables because no one else would do it, and he couldn't follow me into the restaurant. There was only outdoor seating, of course. After bussing all the tables, I come up to the counter to see my coworkers giggling. "What's happening?" I asked. The other hostess smiled. "That's so cute how your boyfriend takes photos of you while you're working. That's so cute how obsessive he is over you. He wouldn't stop talking about you to us." Boyfriend? I was and still happily remained single after all that bullcrap of a relationship. The only person that they could be referring to was Frank. And then it dawned on me. How the hell did he know where I was working and my shift schedule? I didn't tell anyone besides my parents and my brother. A week goes by and Frank comes back. I may have gotten a little overdramatic, but I didn't know what else to do. I told the other host at the counter to tell him I'm not working today, and I dashed inside. I told my manager that this man, Frank, keeps taking photos of me as I'm working, and it's making me uncomfortable. My manager told me to stay in the back room while he went and handled the situation. Our restaurant is very popular in the area, so it's very crowded in the front. Frank with his bike would block customers, and that's what my manager was telling him. My idiotic ass was popping my head up a little under that back room window where I could see what was going on in front. I freak out a little when I see Frank get aggressive with my manager. He begins thrashing when my manager tries to lead him out of the front. Suddenly, Frank throws his bike and tries heading into the building. A few male waiters see what's happening and were informed by my manager. I remember one waiter standing in the background with me watching the door, as another was practically fighting with Frank. I could only hear yelling outside the door and then it went quiet. I spent the rest of the shift like that, cleaning silverware with that male server. From then on, people would walk me to my car even if it was in broad daylight. From August to November, he would be on his bike passing by the restaurant from a distance. He would just be watching and taking photos for 10 to 20 minutes before leaving. Now, the reason I thought of putting this here was it's been a little more intense besides just the looking from a distance. Due to the virus, I'm not needed anymore because now my restaurant is takeout only. I've been working seasonal jobs while working at the restaurant, but now I'm not working, waiting to get my schedule. Because I was bored this day, I drove to my local mall just to do some Christmas shopping. While driving, I look in the rearview mirror to see a recognizable face. It was Frank. I practically choke on spit seeing his face in my mirror. I try not to get the best of myself and knock it off as a coincidence. It wasn't. He followed me throughout the mall and then later followed me as I was driving home. No one knows where I live besides that old friend, and I would like to keep it at that. So I drove for an hour, getting lost and taking every random turn I could until I lost him. I now believe this is how he would track me down. My car isn't common, but it doesn't stand out too much. I've rarely left my house since. It's January 2021, and ever since the start of this new year, I've been getting phone calls going like, "Hello?" Somebody breathing into the phone like a creep. "Hello?" And the call ends. Along with that, I've gotten many random messages about asking about gifts and delivering me a gift. I'm not one who usually uses social media, but these messages were all over mine. All of them were from newly made accounts across Snapchat and Instagram. On one occasion, an account started sending me photos that I never sent to anyone. These photos were photos of my cat and that I had saved in my Snapchat account. Just photo after photo of things I've never sent, and ending with, "I have a gift for you." I deleted both apps along with deleting almost everything off my phone. A week ago, I downloaded Snapchat again due to some dumb assignments my teacher wanted us to do with that crap social media app. One of my old coworkers sent me a message and I opened it. "Frank wants to give you your Christmas gift. You want to stop by?" Maybe I'm just overreacting, or maybe those accounts were Frank. I just want to say that my personality has changed because of all of this. I'm very protective now. I rarely talk to anyone. Not as friendly as I was then. It's only been a little over a year yet. I feel like I've aged more than 10. I just want to say, Frank, I don't want your Christmas gift.